Welcome to episode 2 of the FPL Double Up podcast. All you need to prepare you for game week 10 and react to game week 9. I'm John Nellis and I'm joined by my co-host Wes, aka FPL Heisenberg. Wes, how's your week been?
Yeah, good, thanks John. How's yours been?
It's been alright. A pretty good FPL week, good captaincy choice, some solid returns. Nothing that I'm going to be like screaming from the rooftops or remember at the end of the season, but I'm definitely not in the dumps this weekend,
Yeah, similar for me. I've got a decent score, 65 minus 4 so far. McCarthy still to play. Transfers worked well in terms of Chilwell and Fernandes in. Got the captaincy wrong with Grealish, but overall can't really whinge. And Lookman got an assist. So
yeah. I actually seen that. I seen that and thought of you. Now, just to let listeners know, we are recording this. We will be releasing every Tuesday at 2 p.m. That's when you can expect this podcast. Make sure you hit subscribe so you don't miss it each week or forget about us. But some weeks we will have to record on the Monday down to work commitments. I'm an air traffic controller. I work shifts. Sometimes I just need to record the day before. So we're actually recording this before the Burnley Crystal Palace game and the Wolves Southampton game. We're lucky this week that neither of those fixtures should really have anyone too much in people's thinking. There will be the Zahas of the world, the Burnley defenders, maybe some of the Southampton assets. I have Walker Peters and maybe some people have Shea Adams or Armstrong and the like. Wolves, I think a lot of people might have swerved them by now. Some people probably left with Podence, but we won't really be discussing anything to do with tonight. So we're more dissecting the weekend's fixtures and planning based on that. Is that fair to say, Wes?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. Yeah, we'll just do what we can with what we've got so far.
And before we get into the meat of the podcast, we want to introduce you to the partners of the show, Fanslide. Fanslide is the world's first in-play fantasy football game. And don't worry, it's not just another fantasy football game like Sky Sports or anything else. It's completely complimentary. It's like your decisions are done by the deadline on a Friday or Saturday. Why not make a few more decisions while watching live games? It's in-play fantasy football. You can pick players for periods of games. Why not give it a go? I find it good fun. They have a game on this Sunday, the Chelsea and Tottenham match. They've got 250 quid up for grabs. It's free. It is free to play, but they're throwing 250 quid up for grabs in that game on Sunday. So get the Fanside app, go and get it downloaded. And yeah, I would be targeting that Sunday fixture. Wes, did you play it this week?
Yes, I played a couple of times and I played on the Man City Spurs game. I thought, right, it's going to be tight at the start. Let's slide in 3 Man City defenders, and then I looked up from my phone and Son has just put it in the back of the net. So the clean sheets were gone, and yeah, I didn't do very well on that game. It's tough, but it is a lot of fun.
You should have trusted your gut last week in the podcast. You were saying about how Son and Kane can be dangerous against City.
Yeah, I know. I thought maybe later on in the game, but yeah, I got it all wrong.
Yeah, well look, go and check out Fanslide, download it from wherever you get your apps, and let us know how you get on. Okay, Wes, and now it's time to get into the meat of the podcast. So for people listening, just to give you an idea of what you can expect, I don't think it's any real surprise. Big talking points of the week include Liverpool with a great win off the back of a bunch of injuries and how we should consider them. Man City, we need to talk about them. Spurs, again, the Kane and Son conundrum goes on. We probably won't dwell too long on that, otherwise we'd be talking about them every week, but we will cover it. Then we'll run into some captaincy choices. I have a controversial captaincy choice I'll let you in on. Maybe it's not as controversial as I think, but we'll get to that. And then in the questions, there's a lot of questions about Vardy and others, so that's kind of the running order for the show, Wes. First up, I think we should talk about this Liverpool defence. They're obviously absolutely ridden with injuries, but they kept a clean sheet.
Yeah, and I've just been thinking to myself after watching that game yesterday that we've maybe, including myself here, absolutely hands up, that we've maybe written off the defence too easily. Like, I've got Robertson in my team, so I was happy with his points this week. But, if I was on a wild card just now, would I have kept him? Probably not. But if you think about it, they've still got Robertson, the best left back in the league. They've still got Alisson, the best, alongside maybe Edison, the best goalkeeper in the league. Matip, who was first choice alongside Van Dijk for most of last season, and Milner filling in for Trent Alexander-Arnold. Maybe they lose out a bit from an attacking point of view, but in terms of defensive capabilities, I'd put Milner on a similar par with Trent. I don't know how you'd view that, but my basic point there is, and obviously with Fabinho in there as well, who's obviously a very capable player overall, I think we've just been a little bit hasty on writing off their defence. So I don't know what you think about that, John.
I think it's one of those. It's kind of like whenever you properly delve in to the FPL assets and the team, and like look past just straight up fixtures and injuries, and past the initial kind of thoughts of everyone in the community, past the obvious thoughts when you delve in. It's akin kind of to the Spurs breakdown we did last week, when you look past those horrible fixtures and actually think about who they're playing, how potent they are going forward, and how shit some of these teams are at defending. It's kind of like that. It's easy to write off Liverpool, but when you really look at it, I agree with you. Milner is definitely, in my opinion, a better defender than Trent. He offers much less going forward, but he'll obviously take a wee penalty here and there. And actually, he could be in some people's thoughts. I'm not suggesting that that's a proper left field pick, but if Milner's going to be getting game time, I know Trent's back, but actually, I take all that back. Trent's going to be back, isn't he? But Fabinho's solid, Alisson's solid, Robertson's solid. If Matip doesn't get injured, and they have a couple of youngsters who've proven okay in that spot. So
yeah,
I actually think, maybe without the likes of Trent for a week or two anyway, and Van Dijk there, they maybe shouldn't be written off just as quickly as we did.
Yeah, absolutely. So I won't be writing them off, and it's going to be hard for me to. Obviously, he got the assist. He took a couple more corners, which nearly led to assists, and some more from open play. And also the thing is with Robertson, is pretty much the only defensive asset you want from Liverpool. So with him, Matip and Alisson, they're the only ones that are going to rack up on the bonus point system for clean sheets, because you've got Fabinho in there, who's obviously a midfielder, and Milner at the minute. So there's only actually 3 people getting those clean sheets BPS. Whereas if you're the likes of Leicester, you've got, or maybe not Leicester, but some teams are playing 5 at the back, like Wolves have got 5 defenders plus a goalkeeper. So there's 6 players who could get the bonus points from a clean sheet, whereas with Liverpool at the minute it's only 3. So that's it's only a small factor really, but I mean Robertson's going to be in the bonus points, you'd think, if there's going to be like 1 and 2-0 wins for Liverpool.
Yeah, no, I think Liverpool have been properly written off to an extent, but people will now have the sweat of do they get Salah back in, or if they've held on to Salah, they'll have him coming into probably the next game week, I'd imagine. I think he tested negative, didn't he? Yeah,
he tested negative, and there's a quote from Klopp saying that he could be available for the Champions League game midweek. So, if he could be available for that one, then he'll be available for the next Premier League game, I've got no doubt.
And Salah owners will probably be hoping he actually sits out that game just so he's fresh legs.
Yeah.
I think a lot of these elite players need a bit of a break, to be honest with you. But moving on to that kind of Liverpool attack, there's one player who is dramatically underpriced, one could say, if he keeps getting the game time he's getting. Diogo Jota, he scored again.
Yeah, sensational. Again, he's playing out of his skin. I've got to admit, he's taken me by surprise in terms of, I kind of seen him as a Wolves player that couldn't really nail down a spot for Wolves. He was sometimes playing 60 minutes, sometimes coming off the bench. Just never felt like Nuno trusted him fully, or he never seemed to have a real long spell. I know he definitely had spells of brilliance at Wolves as well, but now he's coming to Liverpool, maybe because he's surrounded by better players, maybe Klopp's using him better. I don't know, but if he can do that, then he's going to be a great asset at just, what was he, 6.5, 6.6 million. And with Liverpool's fixtures coming up, in the next 3, they've got Brighton away, Wolves home, Fulham away. So, yeah, there could be some goals in there for Jota at a reduced price of around 6.5 mil.
A tangent kind of on that, which based off the Jota talk, is players in a sort of comparable value that people will have, that people will be looking to get rid of. One is Phil Foden, 6.5, Jota 6.6, and one who have just clocked that I would be half considering is James Rodriguez at 7.7.
Yeah,
I think he's at 7.7 now. Do you know, it's been a wee while since he's done stuff, albeit I think he had a ball sack injury, but
yeah, he did.
Do you know, there's a tasty million you could save there, and if Jota's in such scintillating form, it's worth considering, and there's a lot of considerations, and Jota's at such a nice price point.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, there's Foden not really doing the business. Well, I'm pretty sure the last 3 games he hasn't started for Man City. I haven't checked that for sure, but he's definitely not a regular at the minute. So it's such a hard one. If you've held Foden for all this time, what do you actually do with him? Because now Man City's fixture run is going to be really, really good, really, really easy on paper anyway. Is it worth holding? I know Man City haven't scored many goals this season. They've scored the same amount as goals as Calvert-Lewin. Both have Man City have got 10, Calvert-Lewin's got 10. So they're not scoring the amount of goals, but they have got the fixtures coming up. So will that change dramatically? And therefore will Foden, and if Foden does start playing games, then he could get some big hauls. It is a tough one.
Yeah. He just hasn't been getting enough minutes at club level. He started the season getting a bit more. Maybe we thought he'd be getting a bit more game time, but
I thought he would.
He played in the Champions League, which fantasy managers don't really care about. I'm looking back all the way a month ago now. He got 45 minutes against West Ham. Then he had 10 minutes against Sheffield.
Yeah.
He was on the bench against Liverpool, didn't get a minute. Then at England, he got a bit of game time, had a great game. And then in their game against Tottenham, there he got 19 minutes. Like, those just are not sufficient minutes. And even if he got double those minutes, they're probably not sufficient minutes to have him in your midfield. You'd much rather someone like Diogo Jota, who's forced his way into this Liverpool team, is playing a lot of minutes most games. Fair enough, he gets a bit rotated, but not massively. And yeah, I just think that one's a bit of a no-brainer.
Yeah, and getting the goals as well.
If you have the transfer, I would be making that if there's no other fires to fight. And staying on that Liverpool tangent, just one more thing, Wes, because this is, it is, I think, for me, Liverpool are the big talking point of the week in many ways. The Salah and KDB debacle. Now, Salah's coming back. Some people would have got rid of Salah for Bruno, which probably proved to be a decent choice in the short term. Some people brought in KDB. There's a lot of questions over KDB and Man City. Last week, I praised them massively. Well, not necessarily praising their current form, but backing them to come into some sort of form with KDB back playing 90 minutes each week and a great run of fixtures. I suppose at the minute, if you have Salah, everyone's going to keep him at least for the next 2 or 3 fixtures, so it's not a case of getting rid of them for KDB. But if you've brought in Kevin De Bruyne, would you be staying patient? I think you have to, really, if you make a transfer of that sort of magnitude.
Yeah, if I don't have De Bruyne yet, I've got Bruno, who I took out Salah last week just because I wasn't sure if he was going to miss the 2 fixtures. So yeah, it's a tough one now between if you can only get 1 or maximum 2 out of Bruno, De Bruyne and Salah. You'd think 2's the very maximum. Who do you get in? It's tough. If like you said, if you got De Bruyne in now, I wouldn't be removing him before these fixtures. He did look bright against Spurs. He was driving forward, getting shots off. I think he would have possibly scored if Gabriel Jesus didn't actually block one of his shots as well. So if I had De Bruyne, I'd still be confident of returns, and I wouldn't be looking to ship him out. But yeah, I don't like too much flip-flopping between the premiums, which is why now I've got Bruno, I'll probably stick by him. I rate Bruno highly to be involved in the goals in any game, and likewise with the other 2, but you just can't have them all. So I think now if choose who you're going to go with and just go with it for the next 5 or 6 games. And yeah, if you can squeeze 2 in maybe by freeing up some funds in another area, then that's great. But again, just pick 2 out of the 3 and go for it. Yeah,
the flip-flopping's one of those that I think a lot of relatively inexperienced managers do. I remember I used to always do it in the early days, where you'll go between Salah and Mane week to week, just burning transfers, and inevitably you're going to miss the week that one bangs and you've the other guy. And okay, maybe you'll go through a spell of guessing it correctly, but it's Russian roulette. There's no need for it. If you back the one that you think will do better over the next 6 weeks, you'll come out better and you'll save a lot of transfers in the meantime. So I agree with you there. It's about backing who you believe in when it comes to the premiums and just kind of set and forget. I think that's something that I've brought into this season. I am much, much more cagey, cautious, patient. I'm not making transfers right up to the deadline, and I'm not taking hits. And I've been blessed because the team's been pretty solid. I did early wildcard, but I'm just taking a much more chilled approach. And so far it's been doing okay. I'm sitting about 375k, and I was 2 million or something 3 or 4 weeks ago. So I think there's a lot to be said for just sitting on there, letting your decisions play out. You made those decisions for a reason. Give them the 5 games you planned.
Yeah, in terms of general strategy, that's exactly the right thing to do. Wait until closer to the deadline for more information. And yeah, in terms of your transfer strategy, yeah, you're playing it right in terms of not making too many transfers, not flip-flopping between your premiums, because other weaker areas of your squad will just be neglected if you do that, or it will be a lot of minus points, and you're going to miss point hauls, and it's just going to stress you out. So yeah, that's a really good way to play.
So Wes, we're segueing really well today. We started off with Liverpool defence, then transitioned into Jota, into Foden. We talked about Man City, and now we're going to talk about who Man City played this week, Spurs. It's a big topic of debate. We talked about it a lot last week. It's the Kane and Son. Can they keep delivering? Kane and Son, their fixtures turn. Should have got rid of them. And people who got rid of Son are kicking themselves because another 10-pointer.
Yeah.
They really do look like the most potent, reliable, best. I've said potent about 4 times this podcast, but look, people just deal with it.
It's a good word.
It is. It's a great word, and it describes Spurs' attack perfectly. They do have a turn in fixtures here. They've got Chelsea, who are pretty sturdy at the back. Arsenal, maybe not so much. Crystal Palace. Then they've got Liverpool, who we've discussed. Leicester. Like that's a tough run of fixtures. But again, not to bring up last week again, but I don't want to ship either of these guys out of my team with the form they're in.
Yeah, I'm exactly the same. When people ask me questions, should I take these two out of my team? I'm thinking I try and make transfers. I'm trying to target the weaker areas of my team. So my transfers last week, for example, I removed Sace for Chilwell. Sace has lost his place, etc., etc. No good FPL asset anymore. So I got rid of him, so that's a problem sorted. And Salah was obviously out with COVID. Okay, he's only missed 1 game, but at the time it might have been 2, maybe even 3, who knows. So I targeted the areas of my squad that weren't going to get me any points this week and improved it quite dramatically, especially in the short term. And Chilwell will definitely be a long-term improvement on Sace regardless. And the reason I'm saying that is that's how I try and look at my transfers. I want to be taking players out who aren't performing, whereas Kane and Son are performing. I don't think Kane is blank since week 1. Son can do really well against the bigger teams as well because they're more likely to play a higher line against them, and his pace can be used to potent effect and behind to try and score. So yeah, I don't want to remove Kane or Son. I get it. I get why people are going Son to De Bruyne, and it might easily work. But for me, I'm trying to keep those guys whilst also having a good squad.
Completely agree. And I actually hadn't realised that Kane had went 8 fixtures on the bounce with a return. That's absolutely obscene. How anyone can even debate getting rid of a player like that. I don't give a shit about fixtures. Form trumps it here. For me anyway. Son as well, in great form. I've got other fires to fight. I've got James Rodriguez there, who's maybe not firing. He hasn't given me a return in something like 4 games. I've got Lamptey with the red card. I'll probably hang on to him because he's a cracking player, and I think he's only out for 1 game. I've Nyland, the Aston Villa keeper who I discussed last week, blocking an Aston Villa spot. If he wasn't there, I can tell you that Konsa would have been in my defence last week, probably for James Justin. But in fairness, after watching the Leicester highlights, he was getting forward a bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Son and Kane for me, they're staying another week. They're going up against Chelsea, big game. Let's see what happens. I'm in no rush to get rid of them. I have other players to move. Moving on from that, Wes, if you're ready to move on, I think we could move into some captaincy options and what we're thinking for this week. I've got a bit of maybe it's not as left field as I think, but I think it's a bit left field. Do you want to tell us yours first or second?
Yeah, I'll go for mine. So I'll just discuss captaincy last week as well, just a little bit, then I'll move on to my pick for this week. So obviously a lot of people brought in and made Bruno Fernandes their captain, and just looking at some stats for every player in game week 9, he had the most key passes with 6. He also created 2 big chances, according to the stats as well, which was for Martial and Rashford, but both of them couldn't finish, so he was unlucky not to get some assists. Obviously, you could say he was maybe a bit lucky to get the goal from the penalty because it was saved, and I do get that argument, but at the end of the day, Bruno deserved to get some points, and he could have got more. So yeah, maybe in terms of, we all make mistakes over the course of the FPL season. Going for Grealish over Bruno was probably a mistake from my point of view. Obviously, you'd expect Jack to get something in that game. But moving on to this week, I'm going to go for Calvert-Lewin, who over the course of the season has got the highest non-penalty XG of any player in the league. And obviously, the people who are taking penalties are going above him in the overall XG stats because obviously they're taking penalties. But yeah, non-penalty XG, he's top for any player. He's the top scorer in the league. Like I mentioned earlier, he's got as many goals as Man City in the league this year. And I'm going for him. Reliable. He hasn't blanked too many fixtures either. Maybe 1 or 2 this season. So yeah, that's kind of why I'm going for Calvert-Lewin. What about you, John? Who are you going for?
I've just had a complete and utter balls up in terms of who I thought I was going to be captain. Are you ready to hear the most embarrassing thing of the year, Wes? And I'm just going to be transparent. I could try and play this off cool. But, this is, we're going down the whole, you're the guy and I'm the dickhead who's trying to freeload off you and basically get a free Patreon subscription and get advice off you. So I was looking at my team And based on their positions on my pitch last week, for some reason it's moved. I think it's because I took up someone off the bench. I just looked at the fixtures. There are 2 blue jerseys. There's Calvert-Lewin and Timo Werner side by side. And I thought it was Timo Werner playing Leeds. And I was like, I'm picking Werner because if you watched the game last week, he literally could have had about 6 assists and 7 goals. He was everywhere and he seemed to balls everything up.
Yeah.
But I know he is class and he has class and he's getting into those positions. And to be honest with you, I was looking at his price tag and I was thinking, if I sell him, of 2 transfers, sell him, sell James, I can downgrade my forward and have another premium mid. I'm really starting to think I need to hang on to Timo. And
yeah, I like him.
He was going to be the captaincy, but I've just mid-podcast realised he's actually playing Spurs and Calvert-Lewin's playing Leeds. So I actually do have a decision. It isn't nailed on here. I think Calvert-Lewin against Leeds is a no-brainer, really, and I think he'll probably be the most captain player of the week. I don't know who Salah's got, to be fair, but Timo Werner looked amazing last week in every part of play apart from the final pass or the final kick of the ball.
Yeah, he got an assist for Abraham, didn't he, against Newcastle, and missed quite an easy chance as well that he should have scored. And yeah, I agree, he looked really good. And his assist for Abraham, if you watch that assist against Newcastle, his pace, and he like ran through 2 players. It was like watching kids in the playground where there's, you know, a kid 2 or 3 years older who's the best kid in the school playing with the younger kids who aren't very good, and just amazing. But yeah, like you said, they're playing Spurs. I guess there could be some attacking returns for both teams in that one, but yeah, I think we've got to be favouring the likes of Calvert-Lewin against the Leeds, who obviously they got a clean sheet versus Arsenal, but a lot of Leeds games have been like, you know, they lost, 4-1 to Palace. Was it 4-3 first game of the season against Liverpool? I think a lot of games for Leeds have conceded like, you know, 3s and 4s. So they could be a team to target. And obviously Calvert-Lewin's not only on form, but it's I'd like to call it sort of sustainable form, I guess. It's been season long. It's over 9 games now. It's not just like the last 2 or 3 where he's not a patchy player anymore. He's a player who's consistently getting, you know, 1 goal a game, an assist, 2 goals a game. So, you know, you're not really going to get too many blanks from him. You'd hope.
I've got a grand plan, Wes. I'm butting in on you there.
But
my grand plan, I'm going to follow you. I'm going to go Calvert-Lewin captain against Leeds, and then next week Timo Werner has Leeds. So I'm going to target Leeds the next 2 weeks. Calvert-Lewin captain this week. Werner, we'll see what he can do against Spurs. It's probably the week I should be transferring him out, but based off last weekend, the amount of chances he had and the amount of chances he seemed to create or miss the pass to create that he should have made,
yeah,
I back him. I'm going to target that Leeds fixture with him.
Yeah, if I had Werner, I'd probably be keeping him. I really like the look of him. And like you said, against Spurs have now lost Alderweireld to what looks like a long-term injury. So they're going to be weaker defensively. It's very hard to predict like how the big games will go. Sometimes they're kind of a bit drab and end up in like a 0-0 or 1-0. But equally, sometimes they burst into life and there's a lot of goals. So I wouldn't be captaining Werner, but if I had him, play him and hope for the best against Spurs. And then, like you said, against Leeds, he's definitely a captain option.
Yeah, that's the plan.
It's a good plan, John.
So that's where I'm going with my captaincy anyway. Okay, Wes, moving on to some questions. First up from Paul, which is at SkyPlayer and FPL. He's 2 questions. He's been a cheeky bastard, he says. What to do with Phil Foden given City's fixture run? We've covered that. And is getting Salah back more of a priority than targeting a City attacker? So this comes down to the crux of the matter again. KDB, Sterling v Salah. Would you be getting back on the Salah train if you got out of that, or would you be sitting tight with your decision last week?
Yeah, I did get out of it, but I would want Salah back soon. The reason, let's just make it simple, if I was going to be making a midfield transfer this week for a premium midfielder, and you know I was debating between De Bruyne or Salah, I'd be going for Salah purely for the fact of Salah's done it this season, Liverpool are doing it this season, Liverpool are joint top of the league, Liverpool are scoring goals still. And Salah's on penalties, you know, permanently, whereas De Bruyne might not be when Aguero's back, etc., etc. But my point being is Salah's proven it, Liverpool have proven it. Man City have got a good fixture run, but equally Man City have had some good fixtures so far this season, and they haven't managed to be the attacking force that we're used to. So until they show that for me, I'm not going to be trusting a premium. And if I had to choose one, I'd choose Salah. And yeah, in terms of Paul's first question about Phil Foden, we did kind of cover that off earlier. Good fixture run, but for me, I would, if I had Foden in my team, I'd be transferring him out. I don't like players that could get you the last sort of 2-3 minutes, because that blocks a player coming in off your bench who might be sitting there with a clean sheet or something. And obviously you've wasted sort of 6.6 million on a player who isn't playing. So I'd still ditch Phil Foden ahead of his fixtures. I think if I had to be, not sitting on the fence, make a decision, that would be my decision. So yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think you'd be picking Salah over a City attacker at this stage. We'll wait till City do something, get their 4-0 win in.
I think so.
If you have more balls, you can try and preempt that 4-0 win.
Yeah.
But yeah, Salah definitely looks the better option at the minute. If you've a free transfer there, if you really do have a wild card, if you have the option, yeah, I'd be going Salah. But if I'd already went KDB last week, I wouldn't be flip-flopping, and we talked about Foden.
Yeah, I agree.
We'll move on to Rich FPL. With City looking so flat going forward, but defensively solid, Spurs aside, would you target their attackers or defenders and your preferred choice of each? So we've talked about the attackers. I think I'm going to try and twist this question a bit ways, if you don't mind, unless you have something you want to say. Let's talk about Man City's defensive assets. We touched on it briefly last week. I think I said Cancelo is definitely an option. Laporte absolutely buried one the other day and it was disallowed.
Yeah.
Who would you be going for if you had to target a City defender?
Yeah, so there are a few options, and they're all pretty similarly placed in the likes of Diaz, Cancelo and Laporte. But for me, I'd probably still go for Cancelo just because of how creative he is from open play. He's creating a lot of chances, and I think even more than the rest of his City teammates, and right up there along with the likes of sort of Cresswell and Chilwell in terms of comparing him to defenders in terms of chances created. So he's a good route to points, should be a good route to assists, and with them easier fixtures, you'd expect some City clean sheets there. So I think if you've got a, but in terms of this question, it depends where your squad's weak. So if you've got, say if you're still hanging on to the likes of Sace, or you've got Sace, Lamptey and Mitchell, for example, then definitely use one of your transfers on bringing in a defender. I see it a lot where people they're so fixed on a certain transfer or certain position that they want to bring in that they forget that, hang on, there's a lot of fires to put out in your defence. Like you might want to bring in a midfielder, but you're either going to have to -4 that, or that move's going to have to wait because you need to improve your defence, for example. So that question is definitely team specific, and it depends where the weak and strong areas are of your team.
Very good. Snorri Andresen has asked, should we bring in Salah straight away, or is Jota a cheaper way to cover Liverpool until Fulham when we might want to double up on them? So we've discussed both these in depth. We haven't discussed the kind of, do you go cheap, do you go premium, do you go both? Would you be going, what's your take on that question?
Yeah, I mean, so say if you'd held on to Salah and you'd got him, but then you've got the likes of a Foden, or like you said, a James Rodriguez, or another mid-price midfielder that you aren't happy with, then absolutely, I'd happily go into a game with Jota and Salah. But likewise, so bringing it back to my team, I probably can't squeeze Salah back in without losing Bruno, which is something I don't want to do. So I might look at trying to upgrade the likes of Lookman to Jota if I can free up some money elsewhere. And therefore I'd feel a little bit more comfortable not having Salah. I don't fully believe in the covering theory, but I do believe Liverpool are a good attacking team, and I do believe both Salah and Jota will be in the points in the next coming week. So I think having Jota as an option in there is a really good choice.
My worry for Jota is that if he dries up on the goal scorer and he starts getting benched and rotated again, I think he's undroppable at the moment because he just keeps scoring, and Klopp's in a position where he has to fit him in by playing 4-2-4 and stuff. But I'm afraid he doesn't score for 2 weeks running, and then all of a sudden he's benched, and then he's benched again, and then he gets 30 minutes, and I'm thinking, geez. That
worries me as well. I worry he might become a bit like a Foden in terms of, because I do think there'll be fixtures where Klopp will play his 4-3-3 and he'll want Bobby Firmino in there, and Salah and Mane are kind of undroppable as well. So if that happens, it would be one of those situations where we kind of saw it a little bit with Shaqiri at Liverpool, where he was doing okay and they fit him into the team in maybe the easier games. But I do share your worry there. But I think at his price, a short-term punt, it could be worth a risk. Because it could be one of those seasons where he might be a Mahrez type player for Leicester, or it's not the best comparison, but my point being is, a cheapish midfielder who actually becomes nailed on for the whole season and performs really well. And if he is that player, having his kind of breakthrough season, maybe Kane at Spurs in his early days is a better comparison, or Dele Alli back in the day, then he's going to be in everyone's team because he's going to be a Liverpool attacker playing in midfield, and he's only 6.5 million or whatever he is. So it's just trying to figure out which one of those he is. Is he another Foden where he's going to be rotated after a couple of bad games, or is he the real deal, I guess? And I don't have the answer to that, unfortunately.
Well, the next question's a bit less sort of team and player specific, but I think it's important kind of to cover it just briefly. There's a lot of experienced FPL players listening. Just listen anyway, because I think this is an interesting point. You can give us a bit of a heads up on your strategy on these things. So FI Japanese Messi has come over from Football Index to the dark side. It's his first time playing FPL. Could you quickly talk about the chips and when to use them? He's already used his wild card, but he doesn't know much about the others.
Okay, yes. So my answer to this is always the same and quite straightforward. Try and save all your chips, so your triple captain, bench boost, and free hit until the blank game weeks and the double game weeks occur. So that's obviously when multiple teams don't play games, or multiple teams have more than one fixture. So double game weeks are a really good chance to capitalise on that. So you can bring in a lot of players who play twice, for example, and then hit the bench boost. So you've got 14, 15 players all playing 2 fixtures, and you can capitalise there. Likewise for a free hit, if there's a week where there's only say 4 fixtures out of a possible 10, then you might want a free hit so you can bring in players and actually have a full squad, because you might wake up, look at your squad and see that you've only got 4 or 5 people playing, and it's either decimate your squad just for 1 week and take a big minus hit, or it's use that free hit chip to flesh out your squad, have a playing team for that week, and then your proper squad bounces back in the following week. And triple captain is pretty self-explanatory. It's obviously just the same as a normal captain, but you get 3 times the points instead of 2 times. And again, I'll be using that in a double game week. Last year I used it fairly successfully on Salah's double game week. So he played Wolves away first fixture and he blanked, and then in the following fixture he had West Ham away, assist and a goal, 13 points plus the 2 points from the previous game, or was it 15 or 16 points, something like that, trebled up. So pretty good. I know a lot of people have been risking it in single fixtures, where I've seen, I think today on Twitter, I saw someone did it De Bruyne early on in the season, Leeds away. They obviously just had a feeling De Bruyne was going to smash it, but a single fixture is hard to predict. A double fixture gives you much more chance of getting points.
Remember Aguero scored 5 goals against Newcastle?
Yeah, that was a single game week, and you can capitalise there. But likewise, there's been seasons where Kane's had a double game week and he got a hat-trick and a brace, or a brace and 4 goals. He ended up on 31 points times by 3. So it's very hard to get 31 points in a single game week.
It's a ballsy old call. I had him captain that week. I remember with a guy who was top in my mini league, because mini leagues are all I played for at the time, had him triple captain on the single week, and I was thinking, you're a crazy bastard. But it can pay off. The bottom line is, I suppose, play it on the game week and the player that you think will score the most points. But obviously double game weeks, you're hedging your bets and you've got twice the chances. So I would always play in a double game week, but I do get why you get some people who just go a bit rogue. Yeah. So on to the next questions. So there's quite a few here. I'm just going to give the people a shout out, talking about Vardy in for Kane, Vardy in for Salah, Vardy in for whoever if they've more than one transfer. Yeah. So CIM's on that sort of line. We have Nigel Sam asking a question along that line. Zahari AC Milan asking that. And CIM again asks, is Vardy a good Vardy in for Kane? He's asked the same question, sorry there. Vardy in for Kane for the next 2 weeks captaincy option. So
I think that's me sending you the screenshot twice, John. So yeah, sorry about that.
Yeah, you shafted me, Wes. CIM, you got a triple shout out now. So Vardy, Vardy. That's what we'll talk about as the crux of all those questions. He's obviously, he didn't blank the last 2, but he got a 4-pointer and a 2-pointer. He did get a goal, but I think he got a yellow card or something.
He had 2 penalties against Wolves, and he scored one and missed one when he was in my team.
That was it. So, a 4-pointer isn't quite a blank, but it kind of feels like one.
Yeah.
And then there was a 2, but he is on good form. He is on penalties. He has got 3 lovely fixtures: Fulham, Sheffield United and Brighton. And then he's got Everton as well, who are conceding a lot of goals. would you be looking at Vardy at 10.1?
Yeah, he's a great player, and what I like about Vardy is just when you ask yourself certain questions about certain players, like the likes of Jota and Phil Foden, there's always like that. Oh, will they get dropped in a couple of games' time? Will they only play 60 minutes? But with Vardy, as long as he's fit, he's playing 90 minutes every week. He's on penalties every week. He's got a record of scoring goals in the Premier League for 3 seasons now, 4 seasons maybe. So he's reliable. It's not just like a short period of form. It's years of class or form or whatever you want to call it. So yeah, he's a really good pick. However, he's in my team as well. So obviously I like him, but he is 10.1 million. So it depends really whether you want to be going for the likes of an extra premium midfielder. I think if you have got the likes of Vardy and Kane in your team, then you're probably only going to be able to fit in one of the premium midfielders, which is the setup I've got, which I'm happy with. I'm hoping that Vardy does do well over those 4 nice fixtures that you highlighted. And yeah, so I like Vardy. Would I be prioritising him over... would I be taking him out for the likes of Kane? I know that was someone's question. No, because I wouldn't be taking out Kane. If you can get him alongside, great. But if you can't and you've got Kane, I wouldn't be using a transfer on Kane to Vardy despite his fixtures.
Well, it was going to be a big consideration for me this week. I was going to maybe go Timo Werner to Vardy or Timo Werner to like a 6.5 and then either go premium in midfield or do something else with James Rodriguez. But I think after watching the amount of chances Werner had, I'm going to give him until that Leeds game. But after that, maybe Vardy could come in. Equally, I could downgrade, but he's such proven pedigree. It's funny, like he's 33, he's lightning fast. He is the man almost in European football. If you want to hit someone on the counter, Jamie Vardy's your boy. He's just so clinical and so just rapid, like, and he's 33. This guy could play until he's 38 like Ronaldo at this rate. He just keeps going.
Yeah, on the clinical, it's a very good point you made about clinical as well. So he often outperforms his sort of XG stats. He doesn't need... Some strikers need maybe 4 or 5 shots a game to get their goal. He doesn't need that. And if he gets a big chance, invariably he scores it. So that's another factor that's just makes him just such a great FPL pick. I really like those players, those sort of number 9s, or that just like they're the main man in the team. If Leicester are looking for a goal, they're looking to Vardy. And there's a few players in certain teams like that, but he's the one.
The only thing, which is, it's probably a bit of a stupid concern, but I think it's just something to bring up for all these players who are in the Europa League and Champions League. Vardy's obviously one of them, but maybe he'd be a bit less affected. He's been benched in their last fixture in the Europa League, and he only played 69 minutes the one before that.
Yeah.
Do you know, there could be a bit of rotation coming in on the sort of the 6 top finishers from last season, because it's getting to that stage now where, after Project Restart, it's been so thick and fast, and I think the longer we go, these injuries are going to compound. Managers know that, and there's going to be a bit more rotation.
Yeah.
There's talks of more substitutes coming into different leagues and cups, and I think we could be at the sort of far end of a lot of rotation and guesswork. So it's something to consider, but realistically, you're not going to start not picking the premium players over it. But I wouldn't be surprised if in the next few weeks, I know a lot of these teams have 9 fixtures in the coming 30 days. I would be surprised if there wasn't some shock rotation, so it'll be interesting to see who that affects most.
And exactly, on the back of that point, again, I'm going to be repeating myself, but it's a really important message to hammer home. Because of what you said, like, don't bring in Vardy now just to maybe avoid a 0.1 price rise or something, because he could play Thursday in the Europa League. You want to make sure he doesn't get an injury in that game. He has had a couple of injury niggles this season. He kind of limped off the Liverpool game as well at the end. Might be nothing, might be something, I don't know. But my point remains, just wait until those fixtures have happened, make sure he's not injured, and go from there. Same for all your players.
Absolutely. And just to wrap up the podcast, we had a question from Ed Startup, which has been more than covered, and Hornet, FI Hornet as well, which was also definitely covered, just talking about premiums. So I think we'll wrap it up there. Is there anything you wanted to mention just before we leave?
No, that's all good. I've enjoyed another pod, and just hopefully everyone's enjoying listening to it and sharing and subscribing and rating and all that good stuff. But loved it.
I might actually check while we're live. People are going to have to listen to me tapping away on a keyboard. Let's go and see if anyone's left us a review, and if it's come up on iTunes yet.
A few of my boys have left some on Apple that I know. They've said they've done 5 stars, but they've probably done a cheeky 1 star in there for a laugh.
Well, nothing's popping up here when I check on Chartable, but maybe next week we'll have some people to give a shout out to. Before we leave, I just want to remind people, definitely go and check out the Fanslide app. Just get it downloaded, have a look, see if it's for you. I find it a great sort of a compliment to the FPL game and way of thinking. You do your research all week. Why let it just all that research and time put in die whenever you make your decisions at the deadline? Get it downloaded, and if I was you, I'd be targeting that £250 fixture. Would you, Wes? Will you be playing?
Yeah, like you said, it's free to download, free to play, and £250 up for grabs in that particular game. So why wouldn't you give it a go? And like you say, it's no obligation. Give it a try if you like it. Then great stuff.
Absolutely. Well, Wes, look, I'll chat to you next week.
Bye, John.
Bye bye.